You really need to talk to the folks here at Next Level. I've got to tell you, just speaking to the people here, they are fired up, they get it, they've got the right balance, and they're all increasing their income, they're increasing their production.
But you're dealing with people that are in the trenches dealing with this, are practitioners, had failures, had successes, learned from it, and it's about helping you not just like get through the next month, but it's about creating legacy business for yourself.
But I can tell you that you are mission focused. I know you're purpose focused, and I can tell you that every loan officer that I've communicated with that's been part of your platform has been a raving fan.
This is the Next Level Loan Officers Podcast, a proud founding member of the Real Disrupt Podcast Collaborative. You can check out more awesome podcasts at realdisrupt.com. And now, Kenneth Travis and Sean Zalmanoff.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of our Next Level Loan Officers Podcast. Joined by the man, Shane Kidwell, one of my amazing business partners today. And Shane, man, I got to talk about the shirt that you're wearing because that is brand new, first print, first edition, first run, Next Level gear.
What up, Sean Z? I actually think this is the first t-shirt ever in this brand category. So this is our new Next Level swag shirt. This is the mountains, and this is a really symbolic shirt for us as founders because we started this journey with Next Level, gosh, a little over 3 years ago. And one of our first ever owners meetings that we did, well, we went up to the mountains. I had a cabin, and I remember vividly jogging in the snow. We just gone to a coaching event where we'd been, run through a business owners boot camp. And so we came out of this boot camp. We thought, what are we going to do with our business? How are we going to build a tribe of like-minded people? Next Level was founded. There was a lot about taking your business to the next level, always, elevating your game. The mountains were super fitting to that. So excited to bring these shirts to the market.
It's actually a funny story. We had a couple of people try to talk us out of naming our coaching organization Next Level. But that's a story for a different day.
And they didn't make the cut.
Hey, yeah, they're not around anymore. One thing that t-shirt represents, man, we've had quite a few iterations of t-shirts, man. Like, we keep making them better, and that's definitely one thing that we've done at Next Level. I mean, we've had 3 major shifts in 4 years as we've reacted to the market, and man, that's allowed us to meet some amazing people like that we have joining us today. Eric Braun is joining us. So if you guys don't know Eric is the ripe young age of 25 years old. He closed $38 million during a pandemic last year in the state of New York that happened to be, well, Shane knows about this, shut down for pretty much most of the year. You have an amazing social media presence, especially on Instagram. You run some killer events that you got to do one of them last year, which is actually probably a pretty good story too, because you got like 4 days before the event or 2 days before the event, the place that was holding it told you can't have it there.
Correct.
And you pulled that off too. So, bro, man, welcome. Like, you have a lot of success, a lot of hurdles that you've overcome, and something that Shane and I can relate to, man. Probably based on where we were and where we came from, we've had more success than maybe we should have at this point in our lives.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. Both of you have impacted my business greater than both of you probably realize. So I appreciate it.
Well, Eric, man, I'd love to get your baseball card if we could, and if you could share with our podcasting community the stats on the back there. Because what's really cool about you is I kind of feel kindred. Like we're kindred spirits. We started with no background, no experience, and ramped really quick. So tell our audience just a little bit more about yourself. Obviously, you guys, if you don't, look him up. Not Your Average Lender. He's all over the place on social media. He's done a phenomenal job. But give us your baseball card.
So I grew up in Long Island, very, very modest upbringing, wasn't poor, wasn't rich, had clothes. They might've been hand-me-down, but I had clothes, I had food in the fridge. But my parents were not business people. My father was a union carpenter for a lot of his life, and then transitioned to being a FDNY paramedic. That's why I got the hat on. And my mother ran she was like an office manager for a few different companies throughout her life. So growing up, I didn't have a business role model or background. And during high school, I picked up my first job, started baking bagels on the weekends. I got out of high school, turned 20.
That's a really New York thing, by the way.
I mean, can we just call this episode from bagel baker to broker? Like, can we call it that? Can we do that?
So, and I was going to go down the route of EMS, emergency medical services, like my father. So I became an EMT. Started to do some research on what EMTs make, and I figured that's probably not for me. As much as I loved it, it wasn't going to help me live the life that I really wanted to live. And I was at a turning point in my life in general at that point when I was 20, just going through some trials and tribulations of growing up. I suffered from, substance abuse and addiction, and I was just getting out of that. And I was faced with all these big life decisions, like every 20-year-old sometimes finds himself. And somebody kind of just brought me into the mortgage business. And I mean, like, brought me in. I didn't even know what I was signing up for. I started cold calling and telemarketing for my first 2 years in the business. And I said, let me take this seriously. I got licensed. I started branding. I started to ask myself, how do I want to build my business? What are some different things that I can bring to the mortgage industry that I felt was years behind of where it should be? And I ran with it, and the mortgage business has changed my life. I'm forever indebted to it, and for the individual that brought me in the business.
So Eric, that's awesome. And guys and gals, if you're listening right now, there's a couple things that I already took note on. Eric didn't do what everybody else did. Eric did what Eric felt was the best thing to do, right? And the problem in our industry is a lot of people, they go back to what we've always done, and they just try to tweak it a little bit. What Eric did, he said, hey, what's going to be best for me? And I can relate to that. I'm wearing my hat backwards on purpose because that's one of my things. Like, it's almost like my statement of I'm different and I'm okay with that. And Eric's done a really good job of that as well. And so I want to commend you on just being yourself, man, because people don't want to give their life savings to somebody who's unauthentic.
Right.
They just don't want to do that. So kudos to you. One question I always ask people is, knowing what you know now, you've been an originator now just really for a little over 2 years, and you've ramped up to almost 40 million in production, top 1% originator in a very short amount of time. Knowing what you know now, what would you say are a couple of the key things that helped you shift so quickly that you would, share with others who are maybe an EMT 2 years, behind you looking to make a change?
Quick. I feel, maybe some people look at my journey and they say it was like a quick ramp up, which by most standards, I would agree with you. But I felt that the route that I chose to build my business was a grind. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, like, I didn't have family that, built houses. I didn't know any realtors. I was 22 years old. Nobody was really respecting a 22-year-old that just got his loan officer license. So for me, it was consistently putting out content for the first 2 years and doing 10 million, 15 million. And then all of a sudden it popped, to 38. And my advice for anybody starting out is first find out your value proposition. Like, what makes you different? What makes you separate yourself? What do you do that is going to help other people? And consistently ask yourself, how can I help the other person? Whether it be a realtor, an attorney, an accountant, an inspector, a client, whether they be an investor or a first-time home buyer, how can I help them? What are their pain points, right? Because what ends up happening is when you focus on everybody else, you divorce yourself from the result and marry yourself to the process. So I would first find out what your value proposition is, write it down, memorize it. Like, my value proposition, my mission statement is to remove average from real estate by adding value to consumers and real estate professionals. I know that. That is what I always pull out of that. That's my thing. And then build content, putting out that message. Because if you have the value proposition and you know how to separate yourself, but you don't communicate that message, nobody's getting it. So it would be those two things. And I think at the bottom of all of that is just consistently taking meaningful action, not the planning stuff as much as you should plan, but don't sit there and because this is what I struggled with. Even the beginning of 2020, I sat there and I planned. And I'm reading this book right now called Atomic Habits, and it talks about motion and action. It's two completely different things, right? So don't spend your time in motion, meaning planning and coming up with all this stuff. Spend your time making the phone calls, taking the meetings, putting out the content, recording the content, and you're going to see results eventually.
Eric, I remember being in San Diego last year at your first mastermind that you came to with us. And you were like trying to get the cheaper microphone or something else. And you had your Amazon account open on your phone. I remember ripping the phone out of your hand, assisting you in your purchases.
And if you guys come to our event, be careful because Sean will do that to you.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
really?
was
can I just step in, guys? I want to pause just for a moment. I'm sorry to do this, but I think I don't want anyone to miss what you said that was extremely powerful. You divorced yourself from the result and you married yourself to the process. And I just got to pause on that because that is something that people have such a hard time doing in sales. It's result, result, result. And the problem is when all you do is look at the result, you don't care about the process. The process drives the result.
Correct.
If your process is a 10 in whatever way that looks like, Instagram, agent events, old school, handwritten 1003s, it doesn't matter. Marrying yourself to the process is a key component to what you did and what we find others do in the next level community. So I'm sorry to interrupt everybody, but that's like a huge key component. We could almost stop the podcast right there and do part 2 later because that was super powerful. So thank you for saying that, man. It's huge for the community to think about.
Well, Eric, in the last year, you've had 4 different people on your team. You have 2 right now, 2 that haven't made the cut. You've made decisions. You've made good decisions. You've made decisions that you've learned from, but you keep making more decisions.
Right.
And I've admired that about you. And I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about that. One thing that I was noticing, like, as you talked about your production ramping up, I mean, that was like the exact time that we started talking.
Well played, Sean. Just drop that in there. Guys, we're not here to promote ourselves, but if we were going to promote ourselves, we would be promoting ourselves with Eric right now.
So I think talk about that process with your team and because man, you've had you have 2 incredibly awesome people on your team right now, and not everybody's been as great as these 2.
Yeah, let me first by focusing on how good the 2 people that I have right now, and it hasn't been easy finding. I have my own processor now, Erin Taylor. She's a beast. She's in the office till 8, 9 o'clock. She's trying to learn every single day. She's devoting herself to mastery, right? And to find somebody like that is extremely, it's priceless, right? Now I also have my own loan partner. His name is Eric Braun. He has experience in the mortgage industry, which I needed to find somebody with a little bit of experience. And that's something that I found out through the hires and moves that I had to make over the past year. So he has a little bit of experience. He's learning our system. He's buying into the system, right? He's not just because the problem with finding somebody with experience is they have their own ways about going. And one of the agreements that we came to very early on, even before he took the job, is like, listen, we have our way about doing things, and I need complete buy-in. And that was an agreement that we put in place. So he's awesome. Building his business within a business. Same thing with Erin. We all have a long-term vision. I always tell them, I want you here at this point. I want you here at this point. And we're all teams striving for the same thing, which I think is extremely valuable. So to take a step back and go through one point to make on there.
And it's a language that we talk about. Like the language is really important. Like you talk about marrying yourself to the process. You also said that you made an agreement.
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Well, then keep going.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that I needed that I didn't do with, take a step back. I hired somebody because they were recommended. I knew them through somebody. They weren't a right fit. I hired another person off of, an online job application, interviewed pretty well. We didn't make agreements. I didn't lay down the law. I wasn't clear on what I needed to be done, and that didn't work out. So I learned a lot through those two people, even if they were considered quote unquote, failures on my part.
Hey man, just like not failures, like dude, it just like it wasn't the right fit. But
right.
Like when we talk about the language, like man, like it's agreements versus expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And like I expect my children to behave well. Like we make agreements for them to behave well, and we agree if there's certain things that happen. I mean, working with my 6-year-old to stop sucking his damn fingers right now. And he negotiated $5 a day for me last night. And I was like, dude, I'm going to give you $5 a day, but you got to do it for 7 consecutive days. And then, but if on day 6, you don't do it, and so it's cool because we get to talk about multiplication and addition and other stuff throughout it too. But like, so I expect my kids to be good. Like, right. I don't expect anybody sitting outside my office door to do their job. We make agreements about doing their job. We make agreements on how we're going to perform. And we make agreements of what is going to happen when you fail, because there's way too many things that happen in a mortgage, way too many third parties, way too many things that, it's just impossible to train on. There's nothing like on the job experience.
Right.
I mean, you can't plan for everything.
Right.
And those are the things that I've really seen you do and change as you found better fits for you. I mean, right. The other people that have been in your team, they're going to be a great fit for somebody else. They just weren't the best fit for you.
Right.
And man, it's impressive. Like I wish,
Well, I'm glad that I had those experiences so early and rather quickly. I'm talking about within, 3
I just wish I had an amazing coach like you do to be able to
right.
help through those when I was 25.
Right. So I'm glad, like they say, hire slow, fire fast. I don't like the word fire, but we had to part ways. And I'm glad that before it dragged out for years, like some people have experienced, I was able to have your guidance and a little bit of instinct to say, this isn't going to work out long term. And here are the mistakes that I made, because as a leader, I have to take responsibility for every result, regardless if it was my responsibility to carry out that result or not. But here's the mistakes I made. Of course, a lot of it was on them, right? They didn't work hard, whatever. But I have to look at like, well, did I really train them very well? Did I really set expectations with both of them? Agreements with both of them? And those are things that I didn't do. And now what that allows me to do when I do grow and hire more, I can bring people up to speed that much quicker, which time is money.
It is, man. It's when I first made the leap, and it took me, gosh, damn near a decade. It was like 7 or 8 years before I hired my first true, loan partner. We didn't even call them loan partners back then. They were loan assistants. I hired 4 in the first year. First person, I didn't ask if they knew how to use a computer. Second person, she thought she should be me. Third person was a great friend who was kind of doing it part-time. And she was like, you really need somebody full-time. I'll stay here until then. And then the fourth guy, man, I'm not originating loans in the manner of the direct consumer relationship anymore, man. Dude, he runs my entire Sean Z team now. Right. And that's it's just amazing when you find that person. what happens, it allowed me to build a branch. It allowed me to build other branches. It allowed me to build a region. And it allows for a lot of things on the exact path that I see you on too. And you and I are similar in a lot of ways too, because we need other people to run the ops for us.
Right.
So, hey man, there's something that you have to talk about. So you've created an event and a brand, Brew-RE, and it was something that was really taking off in 2019. And then, man, like everybody's got to go and bring some kind of pandemic back to the United States.
Yeah.
So
Ridiculous. The
tell
nerve.
us a little bit about that, and then tell everybody about how you had a couple hundred people showing up to a venue, and that venue called you, I think it was 2 days before, right?
Yeah.
And told you you couldn't have it there anymore.
Yeah. So first and foremost, Brew-RE or Brew-RE. Whenever it's a recording, I always try and spell it out so people can understand it. It's BREW-RE. So it's a play on words with a brewery where people make beer and drink beer. And the last two letters, RE, stands for real estate. So it's a real estate networking event. Mm-hmm. I found that when you bring people together in any capacity, like every good business has events, right, that they set targets for. And whether it be quarterly, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, I strongly encourage setting up an event that you control, that you organize and you promote. So I didn't want to show up to networking events anymore and attend them. I wanted to have it, and I wanted to create the community. So that allows people to come together, thrive, and build relationships. So that's the premise of Brew-RE, and it's a moving networking event. So we were going to have it quarterly until the pandemic hit, which I'll get into. And we were going to move it from brewery to brewery all across Long Island, which there's a ton of breweries here. So it was kind of cool to, have it in different areas, different venues, all around. Free beer, free attendance, or free entry, free everything. Just come, drink, have fun. That's the premise behind it. Now, I had Brew-RE 3, so it was going to be our third event, scheduled for, I believe it was January, and the pandemic hit, so we had to cancel it. So I rescheduled it for March 31st, I believe, or was it April? I'm not sure. I pushed it out a few months. I found a venue that was willing to, have a good amount of people in attendance.
Socially distanced outside.
Yes. Correct. I was
Wear
supplying masks. We were going to enforce it. We were going to, I'll go into that in a second, but a very organized, event that was safe for everybody. So I found a venue that did it. I think 2 days before the event was supposed to take place, our governor in New York State changed the guidelines about, events like this. And the venue called me up and said, listen, we can't do it. We can't do it. So here I am. I have 240 people registered, which for anybody that has ever thrown an event, 240 people registered means, 50% of that are showing up, right? So 240 people registered. Everybody's amped about it. Everybody's posting on social media. There's a whole promotion that I do, a whole promotion strategy that I do to get people there and to register. But everybody's posting about it. There's a huge buzz. And 2 days before, I don't have a venue, and I have to tell people something, right? So immediately, I'm talking about within hours, I start calling and asking, and I'm looking. Ideally, I realize we can't do it at a restaurant, we can't do it at a bar, we can't do that at a brewery, because these are the people that are going to get fined if they do have a thing like that. So it needed to be more private. So I started looking for a very private venue. So I called a bunch of listing agents or realtors, and I said, do you guys have a waterfront listing that can hold people in a backyard, outdoors? And I finally found somebody after hours of hitting the phone. So I found a venue. Now the problem is, when you have a venue like that, there is no alcohol. There is no bartenders. There is no food. There is no chairs. There is no valet. There is no seats. Everything. I needed to come up with everything. So within another few hours, I rented chairs, I rented tables, I got a valet team, I found 2 girls to bartend, I bought a bunch of alcohol, I found a place to cater, and I blasted out using BombBomb, I blasted out using social media. Everything has changed. Everybody's meeting here. We'll send you the address soon. And we had, I think it was like 80 people show up, which during a pandemic, during, this time of uncertainty, I was very, very happy with the turnout. And at the door, we gave out masks that were all branded. So I made custom Brew-RE masks with the logo. We took temperature. We had hand sanitizer spread throughout. It was very, very effective. And it was just another one of those experiences. Like, no matter what is in front of me, I have to get the results done. Like, I execute. I kept on saying that was my mantra for those 48 hours. I execute. I had people trying to tell me not to do it. Oh, just postpone it. Nobody will be upset. And I would respond, I execute. And that's in my opinion, that is the mentality that you have to have when you run a business. Is I execute. Everything is on me, whether it's closing a loan on time, bringing a customer in, marketing, hiring, firing, I execute. So that was my experience.
Right. I mean, it's just like you were talking about earlier in Atomic Habits, motion versus action. I mean,
yeah.
That's a whole another podcast, man. Eric, dude, thank you so much. Hey, like, if you guys want to check somebody out, if you want to see what just it looks like to be really an influencer in the mortgage world and what Eric's doing, go to Instagram, check out Not Your Average Lender. Hit him up in the DM. I'm too old, but there's a song about that. And, Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We got to have you back soon.
Thank you, Sean.
Peace, brother.
All right, guys.